Good morning, children. Welcome to this third session of topic federalism. Today we have to conclude this topic, but before I start, I had just seen that some of you are confused regarding what copy to make. Please don't get confused at all. Like in class 9th, you made history civics as one copy, and maybe geography economics you made another copy. I'm not sure about what was your pattern for geography economics, but this is certain that whatever pattern you followed in class 9th, same will be followed in class 10th. For history civics, you will make one copy, half you will divide for history and half for civics. So now let us start today's new heading, that is decentralization in India. As the heading itself is telling us, decentralization means dividing power. Centralizing means centralize or confine power in few hands. Decentralization means division of power. As we have seen that India is a very vast country and the population is also very large. So the powers have to be divided between the center and the states. But there was a need that power should not be only kept in the hands of these two tiers of government, the central government and the state government. A need arose that a third tier of government also should be set up. And this was the starting of the local government or the local self-government. I am quickly reading some of the important lines in the first paragraph which will make your concept clear. We have noted that the federal governments have two or more tiers of government. We have so far discussed that the two tiers of government are there in our country, but a vast country like India cannot only be run through these two tiers. States in India are as large and like independent countries of Europe in terms of population. Uttar Pradesh is bigger than Russia. Maharashtra is as big as Germany. Many states are internally diverse. Federal power sharing in India needs another tier of government below that of the state government. So there was a need that in India, the two tiers of government, that is the central and the state governments, were not enough. There should be a third tier of government which should be subordinate to the state government. This was called the local government. This is the rationale for decentralization of power. That means this is the concept of decentralization of power, dividing power in three categories: the central, the state, and the local government. Thus resulted a third tier of government called local government. When power is taken away from central and state governments and given to local government, it is called decentralization. This definition, children, you will be writing in your copies. This is the first question for today. What is decentralization? Decentralization definition I am telling you, it is written here also in your NCERT textbook which you must have downloaded. You can copy later on. I am just repeating the definition for your convenience. When power is taken away from central and state governments and given to local government, it is called decentralization. In other words, in simpler words, we can understand distribution of power. Distribution of power from where? The central and the state governments distribute their powers further and give it to the local governing bodies, which is called the local government. This is called decentralization. So this definition, children, you must write in your notebooks. Now, the basic idea behind decentralization is that there are a large number of problems and issues which are best settled at the local level. Very important. Now, we must try to understand what was the need of this local government. Had this local government not been there, then what problems could arise in those areas? The problem was that the local people or the people residing in their area are well acquainted, they are well familiar of what is happening in their area, what problems are the people facing, are the people facing any problems relating to clean drinking water, sanitation, etc., etc. So many problems are there in every locality. So it was felt that if the local self-government will be formed, the local people the people residing in their area will be the best judge. They can tell exactly what problems are the people facing, how those problems could be solved, because they are also members of the same area, they are also members of the same locality, they are also facing the same problems, so they are going to be the best judge. This was the need why local government was set up. When power is taken away from central and state government and given to local government, it is decentralization. The basic idea behind decentralization is that there are a number of problems and issues which are best settled at the local level. People have better knowledge of the problems in their localities, as I just told you. They have better ideas on where to spend money and how to manage things more efficiently, because they are also living in the same area. They are familiar with everything happening in their area. They are familiar with how much finances they have, how much money do they have, where to spend money, how much money to spend in which area. So the local people are the best advisors. They are the best people who can solve the problems of their own locality. They have better ideas of where to spend money and how to manage things more efficiently. Besides, at the local level, it is possible for people to directly participate in decision making. This is another benefit. The local people can give their own suggestions, they can take part in decision making, they can give their advice, they can give their suggestions, what can be done to make the situations better, what can be done to make the life of the people more comfortable, how small and big problems can be sought out. All these suggestions can be given by the local people and decisions can be taken more effectively and more smoothly. This helps to inculcate a habit of democratic participation. Now, not only this kind of a setup helps in problem solving of that locality, but also it helps the people to develop a democratic thinking, democratic participation. Why we are calling democratic participation? Because as we all know that India is a democracy. India is a very large democracy where the government is formed by the people. The people of the country are active members to form the government. They are active citizens who form the government and forms the ruling party. So this is the starting. At the basic level, at the local level, this is the starting. The people are automatically learning how to elect their leaders, how to take part in decision making, how to solve problems, how to give suggestions. All these things the local people start learning at this local level. Local government is the best way to realize one important principle of democracy, namely local self-government. So this is the basic thing which they form, that is the local self-government. Local because it is of that locality, that area. Self-government because the people themselves form their small government. They decide matters, they choose members, they elect their leaders, they elect the sarpanch, etc. and they solve out the issues, they sort out the matter, and in this way they become active members of a democracy. They learn how to participate in a democracy and also they develop this local self-government. The need for decentralization was recognized in our constitution. Since then, there have been several attempts to decentralize power to the level of villages and towns. Panchayats in villages and municipalities in urban areas were set up in all states, but these were directly under the control of the state governments. Elections to these local governments were not held regularly. Local governments did not have any powers or resources of their own. Thus, there was very little decentralization in effective terms. These are just some of the shortcomings which they have mentioned. You don't have to learn this paragraph exactly. A major step towards decentralization was taken in 1992. The constitution was amended to make the third tier of democracy more powerful and effective. Now steps were taken later on to remove those shortcomings so that this local self-government or the third tier of government becomes more effective and strong. Now it is constitutionally mandatory, that is compulsory, to hold regular elections to the local government bodies. This was the first step taken. Seats are reserved in the elected bodies and executive heads of these institutions for the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. You have studied this in class 9th, as we have reservation for these minority communities, the backward classes, SC, ST, in our Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, everywhere we have reserved seats for them. Similarly in the local level also. At least 1/3 of all positions are reserved for women. Here also, as in the central level, as in the state level, women are given equal importance in the participation, in democratic participation. Similarly, in the villages as well, women are not ignored. They have an equal share in the democratic setup. An independent institution called the State Election Commission has been created in each state to conduct panchayat and municipal elections. The state governments are required to share some powers and revenue with local government bodies. The nature of sharing varies from state to state. So this revenue sharing and the sharing of powers gives strength to the local self-government. When they have their separate finances, when they have their separate powers, they can do their decision making on their own at their own level, and they are governing the local self-government very effectively, very efficiently. Rural local government is popularly known as Panchayati Raj. Very, very important term. You must have heard of this term, I am sure, in your junior classes, maybe in class 6. So the rural local government, rural means villages. Rural local government is popularly known as Panchayati Raj. Each village or group of villages in some states has a Gram Panchayat. This is a council consisting of several ward members, often called Panch, and a president or Sarpanch. Sarpanch is the head, as you know. They are directly elected by the adult population living in the ward or village. It is the decision-making body for the entire village. The panchayat works under the overall supervision of the Gram Sabha. All voters in the village are its members. Now here each and every line you don't have to learn, but yes, you must remember a few important things which I am repeating, which can be asked in 1-mark questions. The first thing is that the rural local government is called the Panchayati Raj. Okay. Now this you can write as today's another question. What do you mean by Panchayati Raj? The answer will be rural local government is called the Panchayati Raj. Another question for today will be, who is the head of the Gram Panchayat? Who is the head of the Gram Panchayat? The answer will be Sarpanch. Sarpanch is the head of the Gram Panchayat. Then another important thing is that this body takes all important decisions. The Gram Panchayat takes all important decisions. The Panchayat works under the supervision of the Gram Sabha. The Panchayat works under the supervision of the Gram Sabha. But you don't have to write all this. The first thing you had to write is the definition of Panchayati Raj. The second thing you will write is that the Sarpanch is the head of the Gram Panchayat. These two questions you will write under this heading. Another thing I am reading from your chapter. The local government structure goes up to the district level. So we are not focusing only on the village level. This local self-government goes at the district level also. The local government structure goes right up to the district level. A few Gram Panchayats are grouped together to form what is usually called a Panchayat Samiti or a block or mandal. It is also called block Samiti. You must have heard again in class 6, you must have read this, or mandal. So several gram panchayats are grouped together to form Panchayat Samiti, or it is called block or mandal. The members of this representative body are elected by all the panchayat members in that area. All the panchayat samitis or mandals in a district together constitute the Zilla Parishad. And again, a familiar term, I am very sure you have heard of Zilla Parishad earlier also. So I am reading two important lines once again for you. First line is that a few gram panchayats are grouped together to form Panchayat Samiti or a block or a mandal, and all the panchayat samitis or mandals in a district together form the Zilla Parishad. Most members of the Zilla Parishad are elected. All right. Now another important thing here is Zilla Parishad chairperson is the political head of the Zilla Parishad. So another question will be formed here. Who is the head of the Zilla Parishad? The head of the Zilla Parishad is the Zilla Parishad chairperson. The head of the Zilla Parishad is the Zilla Parishad chairperson. Similarly, local government bodies exist for urban areas as well. Very important. Local government bodies don't only exist at the village level, at the district level, or at the Zilla Parishad level. They are in the urban areas also. That means they are in the cities also. Municipalities are set up in towns. Please note. Municipalities are set up in towns. Big cities are constituted into municipal corporations. Municipalities are in towns and municipal corporations are in big cities. Both municipalities and municipal corporations are controlled by elected bodies consisting of people's representatives. Municipal chairperson is the political head of the municipality. Another question for you. Who is the head of the municipality? The answer is municipal chairperson. Another question I am giving you. Who is the head of the municipal corporation? The answer is the head of municipal corporation is the mayor. Mayor. The mayor. Here children, I must clarify that these are only a few questions which we are doing, because we can't do every question answer online. It is not possible. But when the school will reopen, we will surely do many more questions. But please keep finishing this much work at least, so that at least you have done something, and when we will meet, we will proceed further. So I am repeating the last two questions which I gave just now. Who is the head of the municipality? Municipal chairperson is the head of the municipality. Next question was, who is the head of the municipal corporation? The mayor is the head of the municipal corporation. So this much you will have to write. These questions you will have to write down. This new system of local government is the largest experiment in democracy conducted anywhere in the world. There are now about 36 lakh elected representatives in the panchayats and municipalities all over the country. This number is bigger than the population of many countries in the world. Constitutional status for local government has helped to deepen democracy in our country. It has also increased women's representation and voice in our country, in our democracy. At the same time, there are many difficulties which, while elections are held regularly and enthusiastically, Gram Sabhas are not held regularly. Most state governments have not transferred significant powers to the local governments, nor have they given adequate resources. We are still a long way from realizing the ideal of local self-government. So the conclusion is that although so many suggestions were given that all powers should be distributed at the local level and all, but all things have not been implemented till now. So it is still going to take many more years for complete success of local self-government in India. So this is what we have studied in this part of decentralization of power. Now what I am doing is I am quickly revising the lesson with you so that the key points we shall discuss before I finally close the chapter for today. The first important thing was, what is federalism? If you remember, what is federalism? Definition I had told you earlier, I am repeating that. Federalism is a system of government in which the power is divided between the central authority and various constituent units of the country. It is a system of government in which power is divided between the central authority, here in India, the central government or the union government, and various constituent units of the country, that means various states in the country. Usually a federation has two levels of government. We all know, we have studied so much now that in India we have two levels of government, the union government and the state government. One is the government for the entire country, that is the union government, that is usually responsible for a few subjects of common national interest. The other are governments at the level of provinces or states that look after much of the day-to-day administering of their state. Both these levels of government enjoy their powers and they are independent of each other. As I had told you earlier also, this is a very special feature of federalism in India, that the state government has been given their own freedom, their own autonomy, and the central government does not overpower the state government. The state government has been given autonomy or freedom to decide matters on their own, to legislate on various issues, and the central government does not dictate terms all the time. In this sense, federations are constituted with unitary governments. Under unitary system, now quickly, difference between unitary and federal. Under the unitary system, either there is only one level of government or sub-units are subordinate to the central government. Remember I told you, in unitary form of government, either there is only only one level of government or sub-units are subordinate to the central government. The central government can pass orders to provincial or local government. But in the federal system of government, this is not so. The central government cannot order the state government to do something. The central government cannot order the state government to do something. This is a very special feature of federal system. The state government has powers of its own for which it is not answerable to the central government. Both these governments are separately answerable to the people. The central government is separately answerable to the people. The state governments are separately answerable to the people. They are not answerable to each other. Some of the important things which we read in federalism, some important points. First point is there are two or more levels or tiers of government. Which two tiers of government? The union level and the state level, or you can say the central government and the state government. Different tiers of government govern the same citizens. We are the same citizens of the same country and governed by different tiers of the government. Different tiers of government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specified matters. So, as far as lawmaking is concerned, taxation, administration is concerned, the area of governance, their jurisdiction is different for each tier of government. They don't interfere in each other's matter. The jurisdictions of the respective levels or tiers of government are specified in the Constitution. Their area of jurisdiction, how they will govern, what will be their basic rules and regulations which they have to follow, what guidelines they will follow, everything is mentioned in the Constitution. They can't go against the Constitution. So the existence and authority of each tier of government is constitutionally guaranteed. The fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of the government. If any one level, the state government or the central government, if any one level finds that they don't agree to the fundamental provisions of the Constitution, they can't make changes just because they want it. Unilaterally or single-handedly, they can't make any changes. These have to be done according to the consent of both levels of the government. The state government, the central government, both should agree, and then only any amendment or any changes can be made. It is not a very easy procedure. The courts have the power to interpret the constitution, as we have studied earlier, that the final authority is the court to decide matters. In case of any dispute, the court decides the final matter, and in India the highest court of appeal is the Supreme Court. It acts as an umpire. Sources of revenue for each level of governments are clearly specified to ensure financial autonomy. So for smooth functioning, strong finances are also required, and for this the